In 2001, survival horror was defined by external threats: demonic cults, bioweapons, and zombies. But Silent Hill 2 threw all of that out the window. It asked a much more terrifying question. What if the hell you're fighting through was created entirely by your own mind? Today, we're taking a definitive look at gaming's greatest psychological masterpiece. When players reach the end of Silent Hill 2 and discover that the protagonist, James Sunderland, actually murdered his sick wife Mary, the immediate reaction is to label him a villain. But doing so fundamentally misunderstands the tragedy of this story. James is not a malicious antagonist. He is a broken, grieving antihero trapped in a self-imposed nightmare, and the ultimate symbol of that nightmare is gaming's most misunderstood icon, Pyramid Head. Today, we're breaking down everything: the town, the taboo reality of James's crime, and the terrifying psychology of his personal executioner. To understand James, we first have to understand the town. Silent Hill is not just a place filled with random demons. It's a supernatural purgatory, a liminal space, a mirror that customizes its horrors to punish the specific traumas of whoever walks into the fog. The game hides this brilliance in plain sight through its side characters. Take Angela, for example. She survived horrific abuse and eventually murdered her father in self-defense. When James interacts with her, sometimes the environment is consumed by fire. She is literally trapped in a burning hell. And then there's Eddie, who cripples his tormentor and murders his dog. His version of Silent Hill is a freezing meat locker, echoing with phantom laughter. But the ultimate proof of this mirror effect is Laura, the little girl. She's an innocent child with no dark past, no sins to punish, so she doesn't see any monsters. To her, Silent Hill is just a quiet, abandoned town. But for James, the town is a nightmare of decay, dampness, and sexually suggestive or suffocating monsters. Because everything James fights is a fractured piece of his own psyche. Let's look at the crime that brought him here. James didn't come to Silent Hill to find Mary. He came because his mind fractured from the guilt of killing her, and he hallucinated her letter to force himself into this purgatory. But does that make James a villain? Villains act with malicious intent. They seek power or the intentional suffering of others. James doesn't fit any of this criteria. He is a textbook tragic protagonist, a normal man undone by a fatal flaw. His flaws were weakness and profound selfishness, exacerbated by an impossible situation. Silent Hill 2 forces us to look at an incredibly uncomfortable truth: caregiver burnout. For 3 years, James watched the woman he loved rot away. The illness ravaged Mary's mind, making her cruel and abusive toward him. The toll of caring for her drained James's life, his finances, and his sanity. He smothered her out of a momentary, catastrophic snap. It was a twisted act of mercy to help end her suffering, paired with his own desperate, selfish need to be free. It's horrific, but it's entirely human. A true villain rationalizes their crimes. A villain would have walked out of that hospital and never looked back. But James's guilt was so absolute that his subconscious desperately searched for a symbol of judgment. He needed an executioner. Years prior, James saw a painting in the Silent Hill Historical Society depicting the town's cult executioners in red hoods. His broken mind pulled that image from his memory and mutated it, manifesting Pyramid Head into reality. Monster designer Masahiro Ito crafted Pyramid Head to look burdened. His iron helmet has no eye holes and forces him to walk bent over. His great knife is too heavy to swing smoothly. This represents the agonizing weight of James's secret. Furthermore, Pyramid Head is incredibly aggressive, often seen abusing the mannequin and nurse creatures. This isn't random gore. It directly reflects James' repressed sexual frustration and dark impulses during the years Mary was bedridden. But Pyramid Head's primary target isn't James. It's Maria. Maria is the exact opposite of Mary. She is everything James missed while his wife was dying. healthy, flirtatious, and completely available. She is James's ultimate fantasy made flesh. So how does the town use her? By having Pyramid Head brutally murder her right in front of him, in the hospital, in the labyrinth, and in the hotel. Every time James starts to get comfortable living in his delusion, his executioner steps in and kills Maria, forcing James to re-experience the devastating grief of losing his wife over and over again. Pyramid Head will not let James deny that Mary is dead, and that he is the one who killed her. This brings us to the climax, and the brilliant reason why there are two Pyramid Heads in the final act. Shortly before this encounter, James is forced to kill a deranged Eddie Dombrowski in self-defense. James has now committed a second sin, a second murder. When he walks into the hotel room, one executioner represents his guilt over Mary, and the second represents his guilt over Eddie. They execute Maria one last time, but this time, James doesn't run. He doesn't break down. He looks at them and says,
I know what you are. I know why I needed you. But it's all over now. I don't need you anymore.
By accepting the truth, James revokes their purpose. He doesn't need an imaginary executioner to torture him anymore, because he's accepted his reality. Seeing that they no longer have power over him, the two Pyramid Heads turn their spears on themselves. James defeats his demons with self-awareness. Silent Hill 2 doesn't have a single canon ending. The conclusion you get is based on how you play, tracking your psychology to determine James's fate. He might forgive himself and leave with Laura, or the weight may be too much to bear and he drives his car into Toluca Lake. Both are the arcs of a deeply traumatized human being. This is why Pyramid Head's appearance in later games and movies misses the point entirely. He was never meant to be a pop culture slasher. He was a tragic, horrifying manifestation of one man's broken conscience. Silent Hill 2 remains a masterpiece because it understands that the scariest monsters aren't hiding in the dark, they're hiding in our own minds. And the worst punishments we find in life are usually the ones we inflict upon ourselves. So what do you guys think? Is James just a tragic anti-hero, or do you see him as the villain of his own story? Let's talk about it in the comments.